Are you in almost like a soundproof booth?
Well, it's more of just a corner of a room to
Gotcha.
make it seem like that. Yeah, this is like studio on a budget. I've got a I've got a $15 light with a grocery bag as a diffuser on that. So yeah,
Right on. So tell me about yourself. How did you get into HVAC, first of all, and just a bit about your background? Who is Tanner and what brings him to HVAC?
um I guess it's not the typical, family had a did was in HVAC or owned a HVAC company. It was more of a just really off the wall kind of. I don't know. I really don't know why I went into it
Mm.
necessarily. I guess it was more of just a that was one of the things that I understood the least. Like I didn't know much about it at all. I just knew it had to do with a lot of different things, and I thought, well, if I learn that, I can at least branch off into something else because that knowledge can carry over. But oddly enough, before HVAC, I was really heavily looking into doing like making videos or videography or motion graphics, something in that area of dealing with editing and things like that. That was kind of originally what I was, you know, working at doing. That's what I was doing at the time. But I just quickly figured out that sitting in front of a computer all day, staying inside, just wasn't for me. Wasn't going to cut it.
Oh man, I
And
feel
so,
attacked, but yes, I hear you.
but
Yeah. So I want to set the stage here a little bit. So if I'm not mistaken, you're 24 years old, right?
yep, that is
And,
correct.
and you own your own HVAC business.
Yes, I run my own business while I also have a job at a college. And so
Oh,
I'm
gotcha. What do
working
you?
the day job to pretty much build up my business exactly the way I want it.
Okay.
Because, especially with using HVAC 2.0, it's very non-traditional. There's not a lot of people, locally around me that I can kind of, look to because the way that I do things is just so different that I'm kind of having to figure everything out and learn everything as I do it. So
And what do you do at the school?
right now I do maintenance there. I pretty much work on the HVAC and refrigeration there. It's just
What?
a lot bigger stuff, chillers, VRF, a little bit, some controls and things like that. So I get to scratch my large commercial itch there.
Gotcha. And then you moonlight in the night as a HVAC contractor. Is that right?
hmm
And how long have you been doing this?
Um, Total, if I include from when I first walked into my community college, which is actually where I work at now, funny enough,
Oh, wow.
it's been about 6 years from when I first walked in, not knowing a single thing to where I'm at now.
Right
So,
on. Okay. So I want to backtrack here. You were doing videography, audio production, things like that. And then you felt like sitting in front of a computer for as long as you do on a regular day, it wasn't cutting it. So at 18 years old, you walked into a community college and you said, what?
I basically looked around, did some research, and I figured out that, okay, I narrowed it down to a couple of things, HVAC being the main one.
Mhm.
And I pretty much just picked it and ran with it. I just walked in, and there was my instructor, who's a good friend now, Brian Hall, and he pretty much, helped me out a ton. And he kind of, you know, helped me out getting started because I was, like I said, I didn't know anything at all, like zero experience, zero understanding of how an air conditioner even works.
Mhm.
And so went in and basically said, I know nothing, you know, what do I need to learn? And he said, well, here you go. And off I went.
And 6 years later, you're working at the same school you went to school for, and you're also a contractor by yourself, right?
Yes.
Man, that's fascinating. So, is there anything about your previous life, like video production and being creative? Are there elements of that that help you with what you're doing now?
Um, yes. I mean, it was kind of when I didn't necessarily just decide, oh, I'm not going to do that whatsoever. It
Hmm.
was more of I knew in the back of my head that I can always that skill can still come out eventually, like what I'm looking at, making some YouTube videos now. And so I've always kind of had that in the back of my head. So I was more or less just trying to go, okay, I can, make videos and put out content the way I want to, and it be more of a as I want to rather than a job. I just need to find something else that I really like. Like, what do I really enjoy? What, just what feels like I'm not working, what feels like I'm just doing something for fun, and
Right.
then apply what I also like, making videos, in
Gotcha.
that aspect, and just trying to combine it to pretty much do what I like, and be the best at it.
Oh man, that's very inspiring in a way because a lot of people, Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs
Hmm.
talks about this all the time, right? Don't just follow your passions blindly, but follow opportunity and take your passion with you into whatever you do and try to be best at it. And that's a difficult lesson for a lot of people to learn. I'm talking about myself here. Growing up, I had a different view of how I wanted to do, pursue my passions, but there's a lot of wisdom in what you said about going into something and then trying to be best at it.
Hmm.
It's super cool. So you were talking about HVAC 1.0 and HVAC 2.0, and you're saying that where you're at in Alabama, there aren't a lot of people that you could kind of like have like a mentorship with or just bounce ideas off of and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So before you joined HVAC 2.0, can you paint a picture of what it was like before that?
Yeah. And which, I guess one thing I kind of did say a little wrong is I did have, I mean, I had my instructor from college, he helped me out a lot. But I also had another guy, the first HVAC job I got with a local residential company. I actually worked with a guy, Phil Cameron, who he was an electronics engineer,
Mm,
and he pretty much decided he wanted to, jump into HVAC and just, to do it because he was already retired, and he was basically just wanting to do it because he wanted to do it. And he was somebody who was he, he wasn't in the traditional HVAC world, and so he was someone who I could bounce ideas off of.
gotcha.
And working with him, and I learned a lot from him. And just working with him, I was able to bounce ideas off of. And funny enough, the little bit of experience that I did have when I started in the industry, I quickly figured out that, yeah, like nobody really does a decent job. Like
Yeah,
there's how it currently is, and everybody just goes down the same rut. Like
right.
everybody follows the same path, and you ask any questions to why you do it that way and why not do it a different way. It's, oh, well, this is the way we've always done it.
Mm,
And so I was always bouncing ideas off of Phil, like saying, like there's got to be some other way of doing things differently that's
right.
better than this. And so I was kind of really trying to figure out a process, foreshadowing ended up being 2.0 of like, I want something. And I was just kind of, bouncing ideas off to him, you know, of just a lot of it was very outlandish. It was very ignorant because I was new in the industry. There's a lot of things I didn't
Sure.
understand yet, especially on the building science side.
Yeah.
And, in trying to come up with that, well, in the process of that, that's when I was obviously listening to podcast. And when I learned about 2.0, and it was like a light bulb going off going, oh, like this is it. Like what I'm trying to do is already done. Like somebody's already done the hard work, you know, this is it. And so that was kind of what really drew me into it and what piqued my interest and why I'm, currently following it.
And how long have you been with HVAC 2.0?
Um, I guess I've known about it for 2 years ish.
Gotcha.
And the first time that I interacted with a couple of guys on Facebook, and then I met Nate in person at the first HVAC symposium that
Mm,
Brian Orr put on, and that was when I first met him. And then after that, I was already in the process of saving up for a blower door, and I already had his book, and so I was kind of getting ready for it. And then just still talking to Nate back and forth, I finally just jumped in because I was also in the process of really getting my business formed and figuring out that side and getting everything straight. And so I thought, well, while I'm starting this, I might as well go ahead and implement it out the gate.
right. So when you were talking about earlier, when you said there's a certain kind of process that everyone does and no one deviates from the norm, right? And sometimes, it feels like people are just going through the motions without really thinking through why they're doing a certain thing. Can you like give an example of that sort of process looked like? Was it more like a sales thing or was it a technical thing?
It a little of both. It
Hmm.
was basically HVAC contractors, it's very typical for any HVAC company to kind of promote themselves of we're the comfort specialist, we're the indoor air quality specialist. Meanwhile, they ignore 50% of the comfort system, aka the house.
Right.
They ignore a lot of the things that you need to do, such as load calculations and doing them accurately
Hmm.
and things like that. And so there was like this huge chunk missing. And what it come down to is, a lot the typical rut was when you first come in, you learn from school, here's how things need to be done, and you try to do that, but it's like trying to do an algebra problem, but you're missing several of the variables, and you quickly figure out like, oh, this is not working. And so
Right.
usually people kind of freak out like, oh no, why isn't this working? This is supposed to be the way it's done. And
Hmm.
then they just fall back to how the older guy says, oh, well, you should have been listening to me. Here's how you do it. Here's how you make the customer shut up, essentially.
Oh,
You
right.
pretty much, you do the work. And when it doesn't perform very well, you just have to go into, how do I make this okay? What do I need to do to make them think or feel like everything's working? And I don't think it's that contractors like deep, think that, oh, I'm doing it the wrong way and I'm just going to trick them and make them think it's wrong. It's not that. It's just that, they're doing the best they can,
Hmm.
and that's just the product which is going to come from that.
And,
And
and that's how the industry has been for a
yes,
while.
yes,
So it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like to me what I understood from what you said was, customers want something, oftentimes don't know. Not only do they not know what they want, but they don't know or can't often articulate what the problem is.
yes,
And contractors get into a position where they're just essentially marketing machines. So they have all these leads go out, and then the customer calls, they go in, make a quick sale, put a system out, no load calculation, no solving for comfort in the home. Just put in a unit, whatever unit it gives is the maximum margin or something like that, some internal calculation that they have on sales. They'll put that in. And if there's any problem, we'll deal with a service call later. Is that
exactly.
that's
Yes,
one way to.
that's essentially how it happens. And then when those problems do come out,
Yeah.
of course, you're going to eventually have that customer who checks the humidity, who checks, is my house, is it pretty, even across the house as far as temperature wise and humidity wise? Well, you finally get that one who is kind of a, they're the oddball of your customers. They actually check those things, and they start nailing the contractor to the wall saying, hey, like, you promised all this stuff, why isn't this delivering? And the contractor just, they maybe they end up replacing the equipment, they throw in dehumidifiers, they do all this other stuff. Then either the customer finally gets fed up and says, I guess this is just the way it is, and quits, or
Mhm.
he goes to another contractor.
Yeah.
And that original contractor just thinks, oh, well, this is just an outlier. Like, these just happen on occasion. It's very few, and you just deal with them when they come about.
Okay.
That's it.
And it's just a part of your costs and process. You just roll that into your process without
Yes,
stopping to think about, okay, is this an indication of a larger problem? And maybe there's something that we could be doing differently or better.
yes.
And is that
And
where HVAC 2.0 comes in? How does HVAC 2.0 work with the system?
I think uh, one thing with what you could call HVAC 1.0
Hmm.
is one missing fragment is, within the house itself, there's kind of it's kind of segmented to where if there's problems, one contractor can kind of go, oh, well, this is a building problem or an insulation problem. You need someone that does this. and they can kind of dump it off on someone else. And same thing, you know, and it just kind of goes in a full circle where each one just kind of dumps it off on the other, and the customers just kind of running in circles.
Yeah.
I feel like HVAC 2.0 kind of fills that void to where it's a closer to a one-stop shop in terms of actually planning things out and fixing problems. We can
Gotcha.
actually look at the entire comfort system, and we see where, you know, is it on the house side that our main problems are, or is it on the HVAC side? Can we fix things with HVAC alone, or do we need to do something to the shell? And you can really find where those problems are and lay out a roadmap of here's what needs to happen to fix our problems with the highest probability of success.
Right.
And here's what needs to be done, you know, and do you want to do that? And instead of trying to push sales down someone's throat, you're looking at the house as a whole, at the HVAC, and here's what needs to happen. Here's some options, you know, come to this menu and now buy. What would you like? You tell me. You're the one spending the money, not me. I'm just here to find out where the problems, or narrow down where the problems might be.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so let's just try this, right? So let's say I'm a homeowner, and I call you and I say, Tanner, I saw your ad in the paper. I'm not happy with the comfort of my home. It doesn't heat up. Let's say it doesn't, you know, there's drafty parts of my house, and I don't know how to fix it. I think I need a new HVAC system, a new gas furnace. Can you come and take a look? So what happens then? Is that roughly what a typical call sounds like?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of, you know, everybody kind of, like, each problem can be kind of explained differently
Hmm.
in different ways, because, you know, a lot of the times when a customer has a problem, the way they interpret the problem is going to be differently. You know, some customers are going to say, oh, well, I have old windows, so I have drafty issues because of those windows, because, you know, I know they're already bad. Like, I don't have to test, I already know.
Hmm.
And so you kind of have to, yeah, you kind of have to really peel that onion, you know, of what they're trying to tell you, to narrow down where it might be, and to really get a gauge of what's going to be best for them.
Hmm.
And I pretty much, in a call in that scenario, I, you know, give them options of, okay, well, if you know you need HVAC, well, I mean, I can come out and we can swap the box if you like, but you don't have good odds of fixing anything. You're probably going to have the same issues that you currently have. If you would like to look into that, we offer something else called a comfort consult, in which we can kind of take a physical of your house and get to the starting line of fixing these problems and seeing if you even want to fix these problems. Is that something that sounds good? And go from there.
Okay, so it sounds like to me that, you know, you're more of like a like a consultant, right? Like a
Yes.
guy who helps me
Yes.
through the process, and it's up to me to figure out what it is that I want to do.
Yes.
So,
That's exactly what it basically is I'm,
uh,
you know, I'm there to help. I'm here to guide you along. I'm not here to come to your house and tell you how you should spend your money and what you should do. You know, you don't, that's not what I'm there for. You know, there's plenty of other companies who can come out and do that method and spitball solutions, and you can run around in circles because nothing ever gets fixed. You
right.
know, I'm just here to guide you along and for you to make the decision. I'm not making any decisions for you. I
Thank you.
don't know what you want.
Yeah.
You do. I don't know what your house feels like. You know,
Gotcha.
my house is comfortable. This is your problem.
So
So
this
let me
sounds
help you.
almost like a life coach for HVAC, right? Or home comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have
I didn't think about it that way, but that definitely.
I have a buddy of mine who used to be a roofer, laid on roofs, and he's 50 years old, and he calls himself the pointer now. But basically, what he does, right, is he's retired from roofing. He doesn't want to be up on the roof anymore because he's 50 years old. But what he will do is he'll get hired by guys who just want to fix up their own roofs, who don't know where to begin. So he'll just stand and point. Essentially means he'll tell people what to do. And he'll tell them, no, you shouldn't do this because this might not work. You don't do this because this might work. But leave it up to them to figure out what goes in and what doesn't. So he's like almost like a consultant now, helping people along. So to me, it very much sounds like the process you're laying out is you're letting people come to an informed decision while helping them along the path, roughly.
Yes. Yes.
And what
Yeah.
has been the biggest difference for you since you started doing HVAC 2.0? What would you say was the biggest difference in either how you felt during the process, or in terms of the interaction with customers or sales numbers? Like, what's been the biggest difference?
Um, Probably one thing that I've really liked is the non-sales part of it, because I hate sales with a passion. I hate going to someone's house and trying to convince them they need something.
Yeah.
And so the way I've always kind of done it is I just try to, educate them as much as I can, which always resulted in me just kind of brain barfing on them, talking way too much,
Right.
and it leads to nothing. And it's basically the same 1.0 version, just with no sales. So having that to where, having the really anti-sales sales method,
Mm.
just kind of, it's like a really a stress reliever in terms of just being able to go in and like, okay, well, I don't, I don't feel bad, by doing this. I don't feel like I'm trying to push something down their throat. I'm trying to sell them something and making big promises that may or may not get met. And, and you think back at the times that I see people who I've worked for, and I've seen the problems that come up and see the stress that they're under,
Mm.
and going, ooh, like I definitely don't want that. This process kind of, it alleviates that to where I don't have, you don't have that same worry. You don't have that worry of, having expectations up here, and most likely your performance is going to be down here. And then having to have that conversation with the customer of why, why what I promised isn't actually happening.
Right. So most people, I think, don't like sales, right? People
Yeah.
claim they like sales, but I think because it puts us in a very different. I've done sales before, and it puts us in a really kind of, I don't know how else to say this, but like a shystery kind of environment, where you're trying to. It just feels like It doesn't. It feels very. I feel very uncomfortable doing it, and especially when you have to respond to the gap in between what you pitched to where it's working. And so, how does the HVAC 2.0 non-sales sales process works? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, the sales process is based on the Sandler selling method.
Okay.
And so, and really Sandler is, it really is more of a consultant role versus a salesman role. You're not there to sell on features. You're there to see, okay, well, what pains do you have? What kind of problems do you have?
Mm.
And if these pains and problems are really a problem the way you say it is, here's some solutions in which can fix that. And you just make the offer. And so rather than selling to them, you're allowing them to buy. And so that's the good part is,
Wow.
it really takes the weight off, because, I'm not having to sit there and try to read what they're doing. And if I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, having to put more pressure on them and trying to convince them to buy, it's just hey, here's what we have. Does this sound good to you?
Hmm.
And
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're saying that with HVAC 2.0, the sales process is a lot better and you're alleviating some of the responsibility, and you're sharing that responsibility with the homeowner, right? And putting them in
yes,
the sort of driver's seat. So that
yes,
way, you don't feel so much like a salesperson. You can rely on your own expertise and let them make the decisions. And then they take ownership of the decisions. So that means that you don't have to go back and try to explain the difference between this and that.
yes.
Are you seeing any difference in terms of like either like uh, your sales to service ratios, or like your closing rates, or anything like that you've experienced
Oh,
from?
yeah. I mean, definitely, I don't have hard numbers, but definitely the closing rates,
Mhm.
they go up. But the big thing for me is just the time cut. you really save a bunch of time
Mm.
just because, if you look at it from a traditional standpoint, you're the one doing most of the talking. And what you're really trying to do is throw out a bunch of features, and you're just kind of fishing, trying to see which one seems like it jives as best with them. And so you're throwing out a bunch of things that they're like, I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Okay, I kind of like that one.
And
And
then
then you have to find that one and then just start, trying to set that hook.
yeah.
You're fishing to where, in 2.0, you're not doing that. You're asking them to say, hey, you tell me what you're looking for. I'm not going to sit and throw features out and sit and hope that you like one of them and watch you sit and get, angry with me because I've talked at you for an hour trying to convince you to buy this expensive system. You ask them, hey, what do you want? What's going to fix your problems the best? Like, here's some options. What if we do nothing? You tell me. You're in the driver's seat. I'm the guide. I'm not the hero.
Okay, that makes so much more sense because there's all these individual pieces that kind of seem to line up, right? So you've got the be the guide, not the hero process. Then you've got the no sales thing. Then you've got the sharing the responsibility with the homeowner, and you put all of this together along with things like you said, blower door tests, doing load calculations and stuff like that. And so that is basically what the HVAC 2.0 process is.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. What would you, who is HVAC 2.0 good for? Or who's an ideal candidate? Because I know the sense that I'm getting is HVAC 2.0 may not be for everybody.
Yes, it definitely isn't.
Okay.
It depends on.
Why is that?
I mean, it's one of those things where HVAC is really complex. There's no getting around it. It's not something super simple. It's not your refrigerator that's self-contained and everything's accounted for. You're talking about something that each HVAC system is completely custom, and it functions in conjunction with another system, aka a house, in which is completely custom.
Yeah.
Even if you have a production house and you have a subdivision, which all of them are identical, they're still going to be different because one faces one direction, one faces the other.
Oh, yes. Oh, God.
Who are the occupants in it? How many people's in it? How many electronics? Do you have somebody that is more of a an IT guy where he has servers in his bedroom? Well, that's going to be a whole lot different than someone who lives by themselves and has nothing in their house.
Right.
I mean, there's so many factors to it. And so it really comes down to, do you want to be a actual comfort specialist, someone who can solve comfort problems, or do you want to be an appliance technician? Do you want to go to a box and fix it? And I mean, they're both okay. I mean, they're both perfectly fine. I mean, it's to say one way is the definite way of doing something it's a tough thing to do, especially in something that's as complex as HVAC. So it really just comes down to, where do you want to draw your line? Because I mean, there's, even like you said, it's not for everybody, but there's still that need for that 1.0 HVAC. Those 1.0 contractors, there's still a need for them. Not every customer is going to fit in with a 2.0 contractor. That's so just, you have to look at, what's the market like, who's the customers and what are they looking for? If all the customers only want 2.0, well, then it makes sense for, that to, the market basically demands having that. But that's not the case. You've got a lot of people who they just want their thermostat to say 70 degrees and that's it.
Right. So you just want to call someone, throw a bunch of money at it, look at a pretty little dial with some, graphics, and then call it good. And a lot of homeowners are like that.
Oh yeah. And I mean, and who am I to say what somebody should want? I mean,
and how they should spend their money. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, if having a central system, but also having to have a window unit in your back bedroom because it's not the same temperature, if you're okay with that, great.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, that's what you should get. But the question becomes, from the contractor standpoint, is, do you only want to offer that product, or do you want to be able to also offer the product for the one who wants their house completely even across, even temperatures across the house, and to have their comfort dialed in. Maybe it's somebody who has a medical condition and indoor air quality is a major factor for them.
Right.
Do you want to, or do you want to be going after those types of clients? That's kind of the question, a contractor needs to ask to themselves. And depending on what that answer is, depends on, probably what direction they should look at going.
Gotcha. And so so let's pick up on that. So if there was a contractor who's kind of, teetering on the edge of maybe thinking about HVAC 2.0, or maybe you're talking to someone like yourself a few years ago, what is your like rallying call to action? Like what would help a certain kind of HVAC 1.0 contractor or homeowner consider HVAC 2.0?
I would ask them, are you tired of poor performance and dealing with angry customers because they're expecting, the notch above just I want the thermostat to say 70? If so, it's probably a good thing to look into, because like I said, you can either ignore 50% of the comfort system, or you can look at the whole comfort system. If you want to look at the whole comfort system, 2.0 is your option. I mean, that's what you need to look into. That's really what it comes down to. Do you want to actually be a comfort specialist, or do you just want to claim you are?
Gotcha. And so where does Tanner go from here in the next 5-10 years?
I mean, I really don't have just a hard, like, I want to meet this goal. It's more of a, I'm pretty much going to just try to be the best that I can. I'm going to try to dominate, dominate within my industry, in my area, and be the guy. And, as far as size, I mean, I don't know how does it go? I mean, I don't know. As long as I'm delivering badass HVAC, that's, that is my goal. I want to fix the problems that everyone else says aren't fixable. I want to offer the options that no one else is offering, and actually have the solution to them if that's what they want. So,
Man, sorry, go ahead.
I said, so I guess the simple answer to that would be is just to keep learning, keep getting better, and not stop. Keep at it.